So, again, wonderful good morning to all of you from Germany. Today, I would like to talk with you about a very interesting theme, which is a theme that is extremely important for a lot of people all over the world that helps them to use their communication devices. I would like to introduce you into our concept that we like to say mounting made easy, or that we like to call mounting made easy. But at first, I'd like to introduce you who I am and why I like to talk with you about that. So my name is Robert Coles. I'm the European sales manager from the company Rehadapt Engineering and have over 10 years of experience in working with AAC devices, with mounting solutions in Germany. I've worked for a big German AAC company with a lot of different kind of communication systems, with all different kind of communication content, of access methods. So everything from printing board maker symbols up to programming very complex communication contact on Tobii devices, on Dynavox devices, is everything that I have worked for a lot of years. What is the content that we'll be want to talk today about? We want to talk today about a general overview about the needs and considerations when we're talking about planning a mounting solution for an AAC device and for a customer. I want to give you a little bit of an introduction in some case studies, some case examples that we all see, and where I would like to show you how a modular system that we are using with our Rehadapt components can be extremely beneficial. I will also show you today about a little bit of how we assemble a mounting solution to a wheelchair. I have prepared for that a couple of little videos that I'd like to show you today. We'll show you up a lot of examples today about universal and custom-made mounting solutions and introduce you into our commitment, how we can make the process of mounting more easier. Because at the moment, a lot of people think that mounting is something that is extremely difficult and extremely dramatic, or you need to have studied to install a mounting solution. And we see that nowadays, also at the moment, with all of that crazy influence of Corona that is everywhere at the moment, all over the world, that we want to find ways to stay in touch together, to communicate together, and to find remote ways to be in touch with our customers and giving them clear recommendations about how they can use her communication system with a proper mounting solution. So I would like to begin with you to talk about the benefits of assistive technology. So as you know, assistive technology devices and all of these tools that are nowadays available, they are extremely important and amazing because they're allowing our customers to communicate independently, to interact with their direct environment, to participate with people all over the world, to have an access to the environment and to the world. And I think you all know how important it is to have an access to your smartphone, to use social media, to have the opportunity to do a telephone call, to write WhatsApp messages, and to use all of these ways to stay in touch with your friends, with your people all over the world. And I think this is something that is extremely important and valuable for all of us. But on the other hand, we see that there are very high challenges for our customers to use assistive technology. For some of them, it is only the fact that we are talking about that it is challenging to get the operational skills to use the tools in the best possible way, that we have a very different level of training skills, of supporting skills, and also about competence and knowledge. And also the point of costs is a very important part, because we know that also in countries, maybe not in Australia, but in countries like in Eastern Europe, for example, where the funding situation is different, like, for example, in Germany or in the United States or in Australia. But this can also have a huge influence in thinking about ways of using assistive technology. So when we think about mounting solutions and about planning and mounting solution for a customer, we need to have a couple of things in mind that are extremely important to be able to use a mounting solution and a communication device in the best possible way. So one of the first points is that the communication tools or an AAC device must be ready, accessible in all environments where the customer is into it. That could be in a school, that could be on the workplace, that could be at home where he is, but it could also be in a hospital. So it must be available as much as possible, because the question is always, how much are we all using our voice? The answer is very clear. We're all using our voice every day, all the time. So, but also an AAC device must always be positioned properly and ergonomically, so that the customer can experience the greatest success out of it. So a mounting solution must always be flexible enough that you have the chance to adjust and to adapt it depending on the needs of the customer. But it also must be extremely safe, because when we're thinking about using an eye gaze system that is hanging 60 centimeters away from your face when you're laying in a bed, you don't want to be scared that the communication system is falling down on your face. Or when you're driving around outside and you want to meet your friends in a coffee store or something like this, and you're driving over a general ground, then you want to make sure that the device is positioned there safe, stable, securely, and strong. And also the fact that when you're outside and when you're meeting people and when you're having a communication system that is installed at your chair, at your power chair, you want also that it looks nice, because otherwise you might be scared that maybe other people will think, what is that what he has there on his wheelchair? What is that? Is that something alien-like, or I don't know. So we want to make sure that our mounting solutions also don't stigmatize a customer even more, so that he is scared and not interested in using it. So I think the benefits from your customers that you are working with are, for the people that working with AAC devices, very, very clear. They can use it in a wheelchair, they can use it in a bed, they can use it outside when they're meeting famous people like people like Barack Obama, or their famous musicians that they really like. They're enabling the customers to communicate as much as possible in the same best way as we all doing it, for example. So the starting point when we're thinking about planning an AAC intervention, and when we're talking about a mounting solution, should always start with the 5 important W questions. So question number 1 is, who will use the communication system? And this is extremely important, because are we talking about a customer with ALS that is maybe in a very, very, very young age? Also, the question, who will use it? Who will be around the customer? So when we're having this customer with ALS, for example, or a kid with cerebral palsy, who is involved in that AC intervention? Are there parents that working with these customers? Are there caregivers? Are there therapists? Who will support these customers? The second W question is the question about what? What kind of communication system or AAC device should be mounted? Are we talking about a touch-based device? Do we talking about a communication solution that is for a communication starter, like in Big Mac or in Step by Step? And what is the access method? And these are, I think, always the starting points that you all know as a question. Question number 3 is the where. So where will our customer be? Do we talking about someone that is sitting 23 hours every day in a comfy chair? Then we need to find a solution that works best there in that comfy chair. Do we talking about someone that is sitting in a wheelchair for 6 days every day, that is sitting maybe in a school in a bean sack, or is laying in a bed for 5 or 6 hours or something like this? Then we should also find a solution that covers both of the situation. Question number 4 is when. How many times will this AAC device used? Do we talking only about 1 hour sitting in a wheelchair and 23 hours laying in a bed or laying in a comfy chair? So these are, I think, and also the question of why. So why is the customer wants to communicate? Are we talking about someone that is on the beginning point, or do we talking about someone that has a clear understanding of communication and a clear picture of importance to be able to communicate? So we at Rehadapt, we're offering a wide range of mounting solutions that can give your customers the chance to communicate in all different environments, depending on the needs of the customer. It could be that you're talking about a mounting solution that can be used maybe on a table, for example. But it can also be when we're talking about someone that is sitting in a maybe in a bed, that he needs to have a proper rolling floor mount solution that hold his device there anywhere in what kind of position the customer is laying there. And for example, the picture of that young guy that is laying there in a bed with the monitor over his face is one of my last customers that I have met when I was working as an AAC consultant in the field in Germany. And this is a young guy that works, that lives very, very close to university, and he's studying in Frankfurt, and he has a lot of caregivers that helped him to find a solution that can connect these monitor with a mobile eye tracking system, which is connected to a computer that is standing in the opposite direction of his room, for example, which was for me a totally new experience, but it worked extremely well together with a team that works with a customer together. Option number 3 is we are offering also a wide range of mounting solutions that can be installed on all kind of wheelchairs. And when I say all kind of wheelchairs, I will introduce you later in that concept of VMS a little bit. And we have done in the last year over 10,000 virtual mounting suggestions for all different kind of mounting solutions for all kind of devices. So light, heavy devices, eye gaze devices, it doesn't matter. We will always find a way to attach a communication system properly on a wheelchair. And we also will find a way to give you a good access opportunity. As you can see here, this is a young boy from the UK that is using only a switch to control his wheelchair. So assistive technology beginning can also be to start with a wheelchair control or something like this, to understanding if I'm pressing a switch, something happens that cause and effect experience, for example. So when we are talking about mounting an AAC device, then the option or the thing number 1 is very, very clear. We're talking about mounting a communication device with a right access method that can be touch controlled, eye gaze controlled, switch controlled, or with an alternative control system. And we're talking also a lot about the possible language system that can be used from that customer. And we all spend a lot of time in thinking about what is the right communication system and what is the right language system. And it always only can get an access and success when we're also thinking about a way to mounting the device and also the language system into the right spot where the customer can use that tools in the best possible way. So I would like to give you a couple of examples of a little customer story example about how we can support our customers during the time when he is using his device. So we're having here, for example, a customer with ALS. So that's the WHO. The client is using a grid pad within direct access currently at the moment. He is located in a wheelchair and use the wheelchair at home and also at work. So we need to find a way to position the mounting solution in that way that it can be detached or taken off from the chair when the customer needs to travel to another space. When is he need to have the grid pad installed to the wheelchair? For all day using it on a wheelchair, but also needing something to position the communication system later when he's living in a comfy chair. So, and also the why are we doing that? The communication system needs to be mounted properly, easy to transport. He used this communication tool for his direct communication and also to have an environmental control functionality. So there were a couple of questions that I noted. Are you able to share the slides? Yes, Kentris, please mute her. Okay, okay. We will notify error for the recording power locating. Okay, perfect. So this is the current situation that we are talking about. Here with our customer. And now we need to find a way to position that grid pad in a good way to the wheelchair of the customer. But in real life, we see a couple of times when we're thinking about the planning time for an AAC intervention, that we're spending over 45% of time in checking out what could be the right access method. And we're spending a lot of time in choosing the right communication strategy. So is it Sonoflex? Is it Sonokey? Is it anything? I don't know. There are a lot of opportunities of content that are available at the moment. But in a lot of cases, we experience that when we are talking about a mounting solution, that a lot of people spend too less time in planning the solution really good, because it is mostly extremely easy to say, so we will take in a floor stand for that customer at the beginning, so he's able to use that on the wheelchair and on the bed in both of the situation. It is safe, it is stable, and it will hold. But what when you want to go outside and you want to roll that wheelchair and also that rolling floor mount behind yourself to come to another place? So the greatest success, and you all know that no chain is stronger than the weakest link. And this little sentence is extremely important when we're talking about mountings, because when we're talking about a 24/7 hours using a communication system on every day in the week, then we should always think about the places where the customer is into it. And then when we're talking about he's located in a wheelchair, when he's located in on a table in a school, or when he's laying in a bed, then we need to find not only the easiest solution or the most simple solution, we need to find something that makes it easy for the customer to use the tools and also for the environment of the customer. So in a perfect world, it would be amazing if we try to balance that time investment in thinking about device, language system, and mounting solution in the same way, because then we generate the greatest success out of it. So when we want to mount a communication system to a wheelchair, then we all know we having our customer, he's located in his wheelchair, and we have an existing position where the communication system needs to be positioned that the customer can use it in the best possible way. So there is now a gap between the communication tool and the wheelchair. And this is something that we can close very easy with a couple of lines and with a couple of points that connect these lines together. In real life, we say we're doing that with a proper mounting solution. And as you can see, there is in below our Rehadapt logo, which consists out of a white link, another white link, and both of these white links are connected with one red link. So you can think when you see our logo that this red link presents the mounting solution that holds both of these parts together, the customer and his communication system. So when we're talking about a wheelchair mounting solution, then I can tell you it is with the right components and with the right tools, it is extremely easy to install it onto a wheelchair when you know what kind of components we need. So what are the components that we mostly need when we want to connect or when we want to build a mounting solution on a wheelchair? So we need 7 components that I would like to show you now that will be used to mount a solution on a wheelchair. So the first thing is we need to have the right base clamp with a base, because the base clamp will hold the weight of the communication system and also the weight of complete mounting arm. And I think you all know how difficult it is to hold maybe only your backpack for more than 5 minutes on your complete extended arm. Try to hold that there for more than 2, 3, 5 minutes. You will see that your arm is going down. And when we're talking about an AAC device or about an eye gaze system with a weight of 2, 3, 5 kilograms, something like this, and also the weight of a mounting solution, you all can imagine that the base clamp must be extremely strong, because the base clamp will hold everything together on the right spot. It doesn't matter where the customer will be. We have a second part. In first tube, we have a swivel joint that gives us the opportunity to swing the mount away when the customer needs to go in the chair or wants to go out of the chair. We need to have a vertical tube that gives you the length to position the communication system on the right height for the customer. And part number 5 is a universal joint that connects the components together and gives you the universal opportunity to have flexible adjustment options. A horizontal tube to bring it in a horizontal way into the right height, into the right distance, and also a universal device socket that needs to be there to connect the communication system to the mounting solution. So what are the options that we have as available? So option number 1, when we're talking about the base clamp, and when we think about where can we fit the base clamp on a wheelchair, we need at first to identify what are the structures that we have here on an existing wheelchair. So for example, a lot of wheelchairs used to have round tubes where we connect simply a clear, good fitting round frame clamp on it. But not every wheelchair used to have these round tubes completely simple attachable. So some of these round tubes are covered from seating plates, seating constructions, and also when we need to tilt the wheelchair into a comfortable position for the customer, that can also be sometimes very challenging. Because as you can see here on that right picture, there is a round tube on the frame of that wheelchair in front of the front wheel. But this wheel or this attaching point will never follow when we tilt the chair or the seat into a backwards position. So we need to find a way to position a frame clamp under the seat that will follow it. And that's the reason why we have designed also round frame clamps that have one side opened that we can use to attach the semi-open frame clamp on round tubes that are difficult to attach. Or also when we having wheelchairs, like comfy chairs that a lot of customers with ALS are using, where we only have and space under the chair, where we also sometimes only can use a semi-open or a half-open frame clamp under the seat. But also when we're thinking about power chairs are nowadays very, very, very easy to install, because all of them having as option number 1 some holes where we can mount a plate on it with the right base. Or also a lot of these power chairs at the moment, they used to have these T-nut rail systems. They are perfectly made to attach some nut stones inside and an adapter ring. So it's a question of seconds to install a frame clamp there, and they're holding extremely strong and extremely good to install a mounting solution. So a frame clamp and the base component consists always out of a frame clamp or a base clamp and the base. And this base part connects later the second tube. So to find out what is the right frame clamp, we have different kind of options. And these are extremely important, because when we are meeting a customer and when we want to plan a mounting solution and we have identified a spot, for example, with a round tube, then we need to find out what is the right size. And we can do this with some simple measurement tools. So a couple of you may know that there are these kind of digital calipers. So these digital calipers are perfectly made. You just open them and close them around the tube. And you can also then measure how the diameter of the tube is. And these digital calipers give you a clear feedback about the diameter of the tubes. Also, there are available these kind of measurement post-its that we are offering also, or what we have as components in our service kits and a lot of other kits. So these sticky notes are not only just note papers, they are made to do a diameter measurement. So as soon as you know you're having a round tube and you want to measure the diameter, then you can use these non-digital papers. You just put them on the tube, you wrap them around until the paper is empty, and then you're just taking a little pencil and make a sign at the end position of that paper. And this gives you a clear picture and a clear information that this tube has a diameter of 25 millimeters. So it's up to you how you measure, as long as you measure right. So then we have our first tube that we normally connect to our base component that give us the flexibility to adjust it into the right angle where we're not covering stuff like footrests or brakes or something like this. So, and this stuff gets connected in this way. At first, when we want to install it to a wheelchair, we need to open the frame clamp. I hope you can see that video. I hope the internet connection is good and strong enough for that. So you just open the frame clamp, you bring it to the wheelchair, you connect the frame clamp at the wheelchair spot where you want to connect it together. You tighten up the bolts there. And then at last, you connected the base component with a tube that is the base for all the further installations. All right. So the next component in that chain is our swivel joint. The swivel joint is a flexible joint with a quick shift lever that can be used to swing the mount away to the side, so the customer has an easy opportunity to get into the chair and also to get out of the chair with a little swingable rail. And this swivel joint is always connected with an index ring and the vertical tube that gives us the right height to bring the communication system into the right position. And also these components are getting connected very, very easily together. So we're just taking the vertical tube, we're just taking the index ring, putting it on it. We're taking the swivel joint, putting the swivel joint onto that first tube, tighten it up in a good spot where we can position it good enough. As you can see also here in that little example video. And then we're only connecting it with a vertical tube and that index ring. And at last, we're only adding it to the swivel joint, and the quick shift lever can then afterwards, after we have positioned it into the right spot where the customer can have an easy exit and way to get into the wheelchair. So this is how you install the swivel joint in combination with that index ring. So that index ring has not only the functionality to swing away to the side, it also keeps the vertical tube into the right height that it doesn't slip through and slip downwards. So the next component is something that we call a universal joint. So universal joints can give you the complete 360 degrees adjustability option. So with them, as soon as you open them, you can bring the vertical tube, the horizontal tube into every position that you need. And you all know when you're working, for example, with a kid with a customer with ALS, for example, and they're sitting in a wheelchair, and during the day when they're losing just power to holding themselves in a good stable position and they just moving downwards in a wheelchair, then it sometimes might be needed that you reposition the horizontal tube into a lower position. And then you can just simply use that universal joint. As soon as you have a quick shift lever, you open the quick shift lever a little bit, and then you can do always some little fine adjustments to position it into the right spot. Part number 6 is the horizontal tube. As you can see here, at first, when we want to connect the horizontal tube with the vertical tube, we are needing that universal joint that gets connected at first to the vertical tube. Also here a little explanation video. And then we connect at last the horizontal tube and clamping it together and closing it there. And the last component that gets connected to the mounting solution is something that we call Universal Device Socket, or better UDS. And the UDS is always the connection interface that all of our mounting solutions used to have. It doesn't matter if it is a floor stand, is it a wheelchair mount, is it a table mount. So these are the connection system between the communication tool and the wheelchair. And the universal device socket has also two components. So one is the ball joint in the front of the connection plate, and the other component is the tube connecting part. So we're starting with connecting the back part at the beginning on that horizontal tube. We are closing the quick shift lever on the back side here. That gives us the stability, and that holds also the communication system stable enough on the horizontal tube. And then at last, we're having with the ball joint the opportunity to position it into the right angle for the communication system. All right, so as soon as we have installed everything completely to a wheelchair, everything should be really, really strong, tightened up so that the mount holds good enough together. But also, after we have installed everything, we still have all opportunities to adjust the communication system depending on the needs of the customer. And that might change during the days, during the weeks, during the development of an illness or something like this. So we always have the opportunities with a flexible component system to adjust it depending on the needs of your customer. So depending on, is it an eye gaze system, is it a touch-based system, you can just simply readjust the positions, tighten up the components again, and then use it again into the right position where it's good for the customer. So this was just a simple example about how you connect 3 tubes with a couple of components together to a wheelchair. So this is something that we call, this is the standard M3D mounting configurations. But there are so much more other variants of solutions that can be installed depending on the wheelchair. So when we see we're having a little kid sitting in a pediatric chair, and it also is a very, very small wheelchair, then we mostly only need maybe only 1 or maybe 2 tubes that can be connected together. So let's say when we are having maybe a stroller or a walker system, then we sometimes only need 2 tubes. When we're having a heavy eye gaze device installed on a wheelchair, then we sometimes need to have a more stable base with a double tube construction that reduces vibrations of the system and that holds also the communication system in a position that is far away than normal. Then we also have the opportunity to use curved mounting solutions, because sometimes when we're having customers that sitting in a wheelchair with an installed lap tray, then sometimes a curved mount is a very, very nice opportunity to move from a position from the wheelchair more forward, away from that lap tray that is installed and upwards into the right position. And also these kind of curved tubes are available in different lengths, in different sizes, depending on the customer situation. So, but as you know, the situations when we are working over long times together with our customers, they can change. And in that example, with that client with ALS, we see that the client with ALS used to have at the beginning in direct access, but at the moment the situations have been changed. So he's not anymore sitting all the time in his wheelchair, but now the situation that the communication system needs to be positioned better in a bed or in a comfy chair is now more important for that customer. And also the situation that the system, the rolling floor mount, can be transported is also more important for that customer right now. So when a customer is located in a bed or in a comfy chair or something like this, they want to have her communication system installed that it is positioned on a very, very, very stable base. When they are moving into a comfy chair, and I think you all know that kind of comfy chairs, they are extremely comfortable, but they are also very, very adjustable. So you can move the backrest backwards. Most of these comfy chairs are very, very, very wide. So sometimes that stable base needs to be flexible, adjustable in the wide. And also, when we think about a customer that is laying in a bed, and maybe the nurse comes to the customer and they want to reposition the customer in the bed, then most of the caregivers, they're moving the bed upwards. And that also means we need to position the communication system in a little bit higher position. So with a telescopic tube on that rolling floor mount, we're having also the opportunity for a fast high adjustment. Our floor stands also have the option to be folded together and to be transported together in a transport bag, because as soon as the customer needs to go to a hospital and the ICU team is coming to picking him up in a transport car, they don't want to take some tools to remount or to dismount all the components. They just want to take it, put it into a bag and transport it together with the customer. So all of these things, depending on where is our customer located, can be mounted with the right floor stand model. We only need to choose the right things. So we have 3 different options for different needs of customers. So our L3D floor stands, for example, they are made for very, very light devices, such as iPads, environmental control stuff, tablets, switches. The classic floor stands are more for that customers that laying more hours in a bed, sitting in a comfy chair with a lot of wide opportunities of different kind of arms that can be installed. It could be a free floating arm, but it can also be an articulated tube construction, for example. And option number 3 are the Pentalock floor stands, which have that little small or smaller star feet with an installed weight on the base that are extremely useful and valuable when you're having a customer that has an environment or a room with limited space, for example. So these were the options of a floor stand when the situation is changing with a customer. But now our customer wants to switch from direct access, as you can see here now, to another access method. So now the access method should be moved over to positioning a switch. Because not only every customer wants to use an eye gaze system, a lot of customers that are using eye gaze giving us the feedback that also when they're using it for more than 5, 6, 7 days, they want to switch between eye gaze and switch access as long as they are able to be able to move a controllable body part. So this could be an opportunity to say, okay, now we are adapting again the situation for our customer and using now a mounting solution that can position a switch and jelly bean or a candy corn, or it doesn't matter. We have for all these kind of switch systems the right adaptive construction on a wheelchair. That could be a combination of 2 switches next to the head, but it can also be with the components that I showed you at the beginning, a construction that we can attach with the right frame clamp onto every position of a wheelchair, depending on the needs of the customer. But I mean, also gaming can be later for some customers some very nice thing. I think a lot of you have noticed that Xbox or Microsoft have launched last year the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which is a great feature that can be connected to switches and components and give disabled customers the opportunity to control Xbox games. And with a couple of right switches onto the right position where the customer can use it good enough, we can also position the adaptive controller in combination with some switches onto a good possible spot for the customer. We can also combine these access methods or these switch mounting solutions with existing mounting systems like that curved mount here, or position solutions like a holder for the Kuasono mouse into a spot where the customer can drive through, put his head under the construction and take the Kuasono mouse away from it. And we also have created a very, very, very nice product that makes the direct access with switches very, very, very comfortable, because a lot of customers that used to use switches as an access or as an access method, they have given us the feedback that when they're pressing 10,000 times a day on a rigid tube, it might be very, very painful on that position where they're doing the switch access. And that was the reason to create a flex back tube that is a combination of a spring that is covered from some material that moves with the pressure of the customer and goes automatically back into its origin position where it was before, which makes the direct access of a switch very, very, very comfortable from my point of view. So now also our situation has been changed with our customer. So now our customer with the grid pad again, he wants now to have also his smartphone positioned in the position or next to his communication system where he can see it all the time and where he also can do some telephone calls, for example. So for these kind of options, we also have for all different kind of smartphones, tablets, adapter plates, adapter solutions that can be connected also to existing mounting solutions. So when there is a need to position an iPad or a smartphone next to a position of maybe the existing communication system, this is something that can be done very, very easy with the right adapter plate. We also have a flexible universal tablet holder system that covers all different kind of tablets between 7-inch and up to 13-inch. So when you are working in an assessment center and you want to find out what is the right tablet size for a customer and you want to try it out, so this universal tablet holder gives you the free options in adjusting the tablet plate into all different sizes of an existing tablet model. So, but as you know, at the moment, it is extremely challenging to meet customers in person. With that Corona situation in all countries all over the world, it is at the moment not anymore allowed to meet customers directly in person and to do practical assessments with them together. So this is my experience that I see in a lot of countries all over Europe. And that is a situation that might be extremely challenging to giving a clear recommendation to customers. And that's the point where I think our virtual mounting service can be an extremely valuable tool, because you have seen there are a lot of options. We have 450 kind of mounting solutions that can be used to adapt depending on the situation of the customer. But how can I find out what is the right tool for my customer? And this is the situation where the VMS service is extremely perfectly for it. So the virtual mounting solution is an assessment tool that everybody can use in different ways. Option number one is we have designed a clear PDF manual that can be used to do an assessment together with a customer. So they're just taking the PDF, they're filling in all information about the customer, about his wheelchair, about their requirements, what kind of expectations they have, depending on the mounting solution, and what are additional informations that we need to know about from the customer. And they also can take a couple of pictures and sending us these pictures. This is option number one. The process is explained in 4 steps. So step number one is as soon as a customer wants to have an information, what is the right communication mounting solution for him, they are sending us or the team of Link AT a couple of pictures of their existing wheelchair. And also some basic informations about the wheelchair, about the communication system that will be used. In step number 2, as soon as we receive all these pictures and informations, our engineering team will produce you a visual example of that mounting solution that the customer can use or that can be used for that customer. And then you're getting back these mounting suggestion after 3 working days. So you receive all the pictures of your wheelchair with an example about how the mounting solution will look on that chair. And when the customer decides to choose that solution, you get it with clear manuals, with clear examples, and completely pre-assembled. So an VMS example offer looks like this example. We're having here a customer that wants to use an eye gaze system on his Sunrise Medical Q700. So they want to know what is the right mounting solution and what is the right frame clamp. So our visual example for that, what they get is the picture with an information. So we would recommend for that customer a double tube HD eye control mount that will look like this one. It is in a combination with a base coupler. So the base coupler is an additional part that gets between the frame clamp and the mount, so you can remove it fully. So all components can be removed. So the VMS example looks like that. You get a picture of your wheelchair, but you also get a picture about how the mount will look like, what kind of frame clamp you will need for that existing chair. And you will also get a quotation about the components and the costs. So, but this is not only something that you can use for power chairs. So also a lot of customers that using walker systems asking us, oh, how can we use a touch-based device like an Indie or an GridPad or an GoTalk or an iPad to a walker system. So also these can be used in combination with all different kind of wheelchairs. As you can see here in that right example picture, we have recommended here a two-tube solution that is extremely small, that can also be designed a little bit with thinner components, with an L3D stuff, but it's up to the customer needs. And this is how the example would look, what they would get. So they would get a Monty 3D two-tube solution with a round frame clamp. So this as just an example. So, but I think all of you know that we're having now the year 2020. And a lot of customer wants to do or wants to use that service in a very fast and time efficient way. So that was the reason to design an first app for the VMS service. So we have designed the VMS to go app that is available in the Google Play Store and also in the Apple Store. It is a guided request form to do all the data analysis. And it is also a data protective way of doing an assessment, because all the pictures that you are doing there getting saved only on your local device. The app has an face detection plugin inside. So with the face detection, it also recognizes all faces. And as you can see here in the middle picture of that young lady, there is a little rectangular sign over her face. So the face detection recognizes the faces and blurs them automatically. So the app works in 7 steps. Step number 1 is you're doing all the pictures with your smartphone from all different kind of perspectives where your customer is sitting into it. Step number 2 is you're doing some detailed pictures. How is the wheelchair looking from under it? How are the brakes working? What is the device position that needs to be there where we need to put the mounting solution between? And this is something that parents can do, that every therapist can do, that is able to use a smartphone. They can do all these pictures by themselves. Step number 3 is they're filling in all informations about who will ask for a solution. Step number 4 are the points about the client. So who will use the communication system? What are the client characteristics that we need to know about this customer? Step number 5 is the request form about the wheelchair, about the communication device that can be used. Is there an existing lab tray there at the moment? And in step number 6, you can write in all of your recommendations all about your requirements about the mount. So do you want to have it on the left side? Should the mount be positioned on the right side? Do you want to have toolless adjustability options? And what are additional requirements that are important for us to know? So maybe you're requesting for the customer a wheelchair mount for an Tobii eye gaze system, but you want to combine it maybe also with a rolling floor mount or with a switch that gives the customer the chance to start and to switch the device off, for example. So this is something that you can fill in here. And In the last step, you get always a summary about how complete your VMS request has been. So have you filled in all informations that we need to know about this particular wheelchair? Have you done a lot of or enough pictures about the chair? And all of these stuff, you get a clear feedback about that. And then you can decide if you want to send it out as an email directly to the guys of Link AT, or do you want to send it directly to Rehadapt, and then we getting in touch with you directly with a clear recommendation about the solution. So we can generate with that service all different kind of recommendations for all different kind of wheelchairs. So about transport and standard chairs, for lightweight chairs, but also for stuff like pediatric chairs or active kids wheelchairs. We can mount our components also on stuff like strollers or on power chairs that are extremely important for very, very active customers. But also, as you have seen today a couple of times, on walker systems and also on standing devices, supportive standing solutions. And also combine it with multiple devices, like sometimes a customer wants to use not eye gaze as an access method. Some of them want to use maybe a trackball in combination with a switch that can be controlled with the feet of the customer, or they want to have an iPad next to her existing communication device. Sometimes we're talking about multiple devices, like having a tablet for the customer in a position where he can use it, and on the other side, another tablet so he can mirror, for example, the surfaces so the customer can read what he's writing there. Or when they move from a wheelchair to a bed, where they can use something that they can simply taking off from the wheelchair and putting it onto the bed, where they can also use it. We can use that for switch mounting, for switch positioning, for bed solutions, for tabletop solutions. So it is completely free to use for everything that you want to use. As setup supports, when you're working the first time with one of these mounting solutions, you get with every mounting solution clear assembly and operating instructions. You get with a VMS service also your pictures about your existing wheelchair, about how it must look when you want to install it. Also, this is something that can be used when you're having a customer that used to have a mounting solution that was maybe from an assistant completely readjusted and now it doesn't work anymore. And you want to know, okay, how can we install it back into his original position? Then use that service, download the app, do some pictures, send us your pictures and request, how can I remount it into the right way? We have these components. And as setup support, you find a lot of valuable information on our YouTube channel. During these days, a lot of Zoom meetings, Skype video calls happening to be in touch with customers, to giving them recommendations about how they can readjust it, or when the wheelchair is changing, they want to know what kind of frame clamp they can use then, so they can use this then also. For practical installations, we have designed stuff like an assessment kit that gives us the opportunity to have the full component of Rehadapt parts in one huge box that you can use to do practical installations. I know that a lot of rehabilitation centers, therapy centers used to have them when they want to install it directly from the scratch by themselves. So they are a very, very nice assessment tool. And as soon as you are working daily or frequently with practical installations, we also have that little practical Rehadapt transport bag, or that we call service kit, when we need to do some little adaptations on a customer chair. So that was it. That was a little introduction into the concept of mounting made easy, on about what are the options that we have when we want to work with an AAC device and how can we position it into the right spot.